Champagne.
Yes, I saw you on TV this morning.
What are we expecting today?
An investment budget. It's going to be a great day for Canadians. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. I just need to go see the Prime Minister.
Comment allez-vous vendre le budget aux Canadiens?
Ben, les gens vont se reconnaître. C'est un budget d'investissement. Les gens sont... On va répondre au moment. Je pense que les gens ont compris qu'il y avait des enjeux. On a la capacité fiscale de le faire. On va faire des investissements générationnels. And we'll see each other later.
Are those blue shoes? Do they have a lift?
Oh, no,
Can you speak to a lift?
There you go. That's the blue shoes.
Inch and a half lift? Can we speak to a lift?
Sorry?
Do the shoes have a lift? Inch and a half?
No,
Okay.
trust me. I'm not tall, but look
You're
at
not
that.
lifting,
This is how they're made. They're the same RCMP. It's the RCMP officer shoes, so that's the same thing that they wear. So it's good, but we'll see you. This is a great day for
Canada. We see any other black in the budget. The shoes the only black we're going to see.
What's the name of your budget?
Seen any people from the Conservative side? Are you looking at the seating plan at all?
Well, I mean, we're always hopeful that the opposition will reflect on the budget that's presented today and vote in favor of it. I think that's what Canadians want. Canadians don't want an election right now. So in a minority parliament, these are the conditions that are laid out to us, and we will move forward accordingly.
Are you trying to court any Conservatives to cross the aisle?
We're always trying to work with other MPs and stakeholders throughout the country when it comes to our budget. You heard the minister say that there's been over 20,000 personal engagement activities on the budget, and so yeah, this is a budget that is going to reflect Canada and what we need right now, and I am optimistic that opposition parties will come around and vote in favor of it.
But you're in charge of the seating chart for the government side. Are you making any room, so to speak, for any additional seats?
There's always room. There's always room on our side for those that want to join the Liberal Party. We're a Big Ten party, and we're always open to those kind of discussions, but I'm not actively having a discussion with anybody, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want approved destination status for China? The news that they approved Canada. Is that a direct result from the talks last week in South Korea?
The work that we've been doing to recalibrate the Canada-China relationship has been ongoing for some weeks. I obviously was building on the Prime Minister's conversation in New York with senior Chinese leaders when I was in China. And I met with my counterpart, Minister Wang Yi, in Beijing, and that was a follow-on from my conversation with him in Malaysia in July. And so there has been work over the last number of months and weeks to recalibrate the relationship, and that work is ongoing. We expect to have more engagement over the coming months, and we'll see where that takes us.
Can you explain for Canadians why this matters, though? It might not be a term they recognize, approved destination status, but like in the very near future even, like what are the stakes? What's the dollar value, the potential of this for the economy? Like just to put it into terms that people can understand economically.
Well, thank you for the question and for thinking about the growth of the domestic economy, which is why we're excited about the budget today, because it's going to be focused on the growth of the domestic economy. To your question, this means that more and more numbers of tourists from China will be here in our country and building the domestic economy across provinces and towns and cities in this amazing, beautiful country of ours. And so it is good news, but we have more work to do on the relationship, and I look forward to doing that with the Prime Minister.
All right, have you run the numbers? How many tourists are we talking about?
Well, that's to be seen. It just changed yesterday, so give me a couple of weeks and I'll start getting some numbers for you that are actually accurate.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
En français, vous parlez justement de ce reset avec la Chine. Quelle est votre priorité numéro un? Quel dossier se trouve au-dessus de la table?
Well, je toujours voudrais mentionner que il y a deux choses importantes pour le Canada. C'est de bâtir l'économie domestique. Ça, c'est notre priorité. Vous allez le voir dans le budget 2025. Aussi de pousser les intérêts canadiens toujours. Et ça veut dire la sécurité publique et les enjeux comme ça. Donc, c'est deux ou trois choses, mais il y a des sous-enjeux qu'on doit discuter avec nos homologues et ça c'est la priorité de notre gouvernement, de pousser les intérêts canadiens, de s'assurer que notre politique des affaires étrangères serve notre économie et notre population domestique.
Justement, vous en avez parlé du budget. Comment allez-vous vendre ce budget aux Canadiens?
On va voir. Il est ici maintenant, je dois le lire.
Sidhu, could we ask you on approved destination status for China? Can you stop for a couple minutes and take a few questions on that?
Look, I think it's an important step forward. It will obviously support our tourism industry, but of course, coming out of the meeting in South Korea, I met with my counterpart, Prime Minister met with his counterpart, and this is what Canadians expect us to do. Stakeholders expect us to have that dialogue, and as you know, the relationship was dormant for over 7 years. And so restarting JETSI, having those communication channels open, will allow us to work through some of the challenges.
So is this a direct result of the leader-to-leader meeting that we saw last week?
Well, what I can say is we're moving in the right direction, right? And I think that's what Canadians expect us to do. Will there always be, flowers growing? But, I think it's important that we work through the challenges, but also look at the opportunities. And here's one of the opportunities of having more tourism come to Canada to support our industries.
What's the economic value of that? I mean, not having that for the last couple of years was a real problem for the tourism sector. Have you run the numbers? Like,
Well,
what's the opportunity here
When
now?
I visited the Vancouver airport, they were telling me last year that flights were down to that region of the world because of tourism. And so this will definitely support revenues in terms of supporting our industry here in Canada.
But in terms of economic growth on a budget day, do we have a figure for what the value
Look,
of this is?
it's a big day for the budget. I know Canadians are excited. I'm excited. Big investments in Canadians' future, but it's also going to have fiscal prudence, and that's what Canadians expect from this
Your
government.
riding's right beside Pearson Airport. Your riding's right beside Pearson Airport. You're thinking of China Eastern, China Southern, Hainan, Air China, all coming into Pearson. Are the flights going to increase? Are we going to see more and more of these jets coming over from cities all around China?
From what I know and my visits to the airports, a lot of Asia is served on the West Coast because it's just closer. But of course, I do expect revenues and tourism to go up based on what China had made a decision on. Thank you.
Can you speak to the discussion?
Can you tell us about your trip to COP and what you'll be up to at COP next week?
I'm going to be talking to other environment ministers from around the world about how we continue to fight climate change, and I'm looking forward to it.
The other question I have for you is the cutting of the tree program, $2 billion down to $1 billion. Does a billion trees make a difference? Is it going to save money to put into other programs?
I think we're going to have to look at the budget, but I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff in this budget.
Well, your government has leaked it to the CBC.
Do you have a reaction to the Supreme Court of Canada striking down the 1-year mandatory minimum for possession of child pornography? And are you looking at using the notwithstanding clause to reinstate that mandatory minimum?
So let me just start by saying, not just as an MP or a minister, but as a parent, sexual crimes committed against kids are amongst the most despicable that exist within our society. We just put legislation on the table that can deal with consecutive sentencing for such crimes and that would prohibit courts from ordering house arrest for sexual crimes committed against kids. Over the next number of weeks, we are putting together another piece of legislation that's going to take further action to deal with sexual exploitation of kids in an online environment, and we're looking at harsher penalties right now. The path forward will involve certain policy choices. I don't necessarily think we need to override the Constitution to fix these problems, but we are going to fix the gap.
But is the notwithstanding clause still an option on the table?
We don't intend to override the Constitution to fix the problem. There's other solutions that are apparent to us, and we're doing the policy exercise to find the right path right now to protect our kids.
Is your office dealing with online harms at all, or is that completely under heritage now?
Look, just indulge me for 30 seconds because I'll do my best to explain. When I hear online harms, that could mean a number of different things to different people. We've not made the decision to copy and paste the Online Harms Act exactly in the same form that exists in the previous Parliament and just put it forward in the precise form. Certain measures would have been included in legislation that we've already tabled this fall. There's other measures that we're looking at in the legislation that I just mentioned, and there's obviously going to be a role to play for both Ministers Guilbeault and Solomon. So we're working together to identify the right path forward, but not necessarily through a single piece of legislation, but potentially through several different measures.
So there will necessarily be an online harms bill?
Components of that bill are finding their way into other pieces of legislation, but I wouldn't expect it to be copied and pasted in substantially the same form.
Is there a fixation by the opposition by using the notwithstanding clause? It seems to be bandied about a lot versus being rarely used for the last last 25 years, except for Quebec a few times.
Well, look, let me just say, in the case that's provoked this conversation in the last few days, I don't attribute political motivations or malice to any party who wants to do more to address the scourge of child pornography in society. I do think there's a broader conversation playing out about the role of the notwithstanding clause in Canadian society and the desire to ensure that legislatures obviously have the authority to make laws that serve the people, but that the rule of law still has a place to play in Canadian society. That's an exercise that's going to play out, including before the Supreme Court over the next number of months, and obviously the federal government will be a party to that kind of
Still on the topic of the notwithstanding.
Sorry, I want to go and see the materials.
Everyone, getting ready? Big budget coming.
Was it easy to make cuts in this budget? Was it easy to take from the departments, or did you have to go back to the departments and ask for more cuts to get to the number you need?
Well, I think the colleagues and the country understood we needed to find savings. I think Canadians have been tightening their belt for quite some time, and if you want to be credible when you're saying you're going to make generational investments, you also have to have the discipline to look at how you can make government more efficient. What program can you streamline? How can you bring technology? How you can make sure that we deliver better services for Canadians? Those are tough decisions, but they are needed decisions. I think Canadians elected us with a strong mandate. The budget of today is an investment budget. You're going to see generational investments, ambitious in our investment, rigorous in our spending, and I think we're meeting the moment. Canadians have felt the world is changing. There's a lot of things going on. There's some headwinds, but Canada has a very strong fiscal position. We can make these investments at the time, being very rigorous in our spending.
Will there be Canadian families tonight who will be worrying about their welfare, that they will be losing their public service job after this? There will be concerns like that?
Well, we are going to be very compassionate. Like I said, we need to bring back the civil service to a more sustainable level. There's been quite an increase since COVID and over the last few years, but we're going to be very compassionate, and most of that is going to be through normal attrition. We have a number of people who just retire normally in the normal course of business. So I think that people will be reassured in a way that we have made the right choices, that we're going to do that in a smart and compassionate way, preserving the key services that are dear to Canadians, and at the same time making sure that we become more efficient. There's a lot of things we can do. But overall, if you ask me, Canadians will feel good tonight. We're going to be okay as a country. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of concerns in families, on the shop floor, in the fields. But I would say tonight people will go to bed and say, we're going to be okay. Canada is a strong country. We have strong foundation, strong industry. This budget will really bring us forward as a nation, empower people. It's a pivotal moment, and I think Canadians are ready for that.
Votre message de le fonctionnaire, il y a beaucoup de fonctionnaires qui ont le concern pour le pièce qui arrive, ton job, c'est terminé.
Moi, je veux les rassurer. D'abord, la fonction publique joue un rôle très important. On a tous énormément de respect pour les fonctionnaires fédéraux. Ils offrent des services essentiels pour les Canadiens. Ce qu'on a dit, c'est qu'on allait ramener les niveaux à des niveaux plus soutenables, des niveaux, on a vu depuis la pandémie qu'il y a eu une augmentation significative, mais on va faire ça de façon judicieuse, mais aussi bienveillante. Je pense que le mot bienveillance est important. Beaucoup de ce qu'on va voir pour ramener la taille du service public au bon niveau, c'est ce qu'on appelle les départs volontaires. Vous savez, à chaque année, il y a un nombre de personnes qui quittent la fonction publique. Mais comme je vous dis, en même temps, on sera capable d'avoir une fonction publique plus moderne, puis en même temps de faire ça. Tout ce qu'on fera, ça sera de façon très bienveillante pour les gens, parce qu'on pense que tous les fonctionnaires fédéraux rentrent au travail le matin en voulant servir le pays. Puis moi, c'est pour ça qu'on fera ça avec beaucoup de respect, de façon très judicieuse, mais aussi de façon bienveillante. Merci. Merci, à plus tard.
Merci.